just did a video where I took you outside and showed you that part of my fence blew down. Then I started talking about some other stuff as I'm looking for my coffee cup, which I can never find. And then I was talking and talking and talking, and went on and on and on forever. It was a long video. And then I realized that my camera, for some reason, I don't know why, I recognized my camera wasn't working. But my camera stopped working. Now on these flip video cameras, as I'm searching for my coffee cup, which I could never find. Now these flip video cameras, if you have one and the thing dies on you, underneath, you know where it screws in, where the screw mount is for the tripod, there's a little tiny hole there. And I have a needle, you know, from my sewing machine era, where you can stick a needle in there and you push it up in there and you'll feel it hit and engage, and that engagement resets your camera. So I reset my camera, and now I'm doing another video. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I think what I need to do is to do something interesting. Something that's so far out of the box that people think, man, you're really nuts. You are really freaking nuts to even think about that one. As I'm reaching down here to pick up the lid for my carafe. Because it seems apparently that I cannot fit in to the structure as being what the art world needs in order for me to be successful within that structure. I can't do it. I've never been able to do it. I know too much about it. I got hoodwinked by it. And I don't really want to be a part of it. But at the same time, if I'm not a part of it, how am I going to do it? I don't know. Let me show you something. Now, what is that called? What is that currency, money, type of money called? I can't remember. It's a type of currency that is used, and do your own research. I'm a generalist. All this information may be a lie. It may be false. I may have dreamed it. This right here is money from China. Now, at that particular time, this type of money was used. With this particular type of money, you could trade it for knives or cutlery. Now, I don't know if this was worth 1 knife or 5 knives, or if it's worth a little sickle for farming. I don't know what it's worth, but it's worth something that relates to that. You could not trade this for a cow. Now, I'm sure that if you had plenty of them and somebody had a cow and they needed a bunch of knives, they would be more than happy to trade you a cow for a bunch of that, so then they could trade those things for some knives. That kind of a vibe. Now, I drink a lot of coffee. That is a commodity. Now, if I had a bunch of those knife coins, I would trade knife coins for coffee. But if the person that had the coffee didn't need a knife, then maybe they wouldn't trade with me. So I think it was in the 7th century, the Chinese started to produce paper currency. I mean, if the rate of exchange are chickens, I mean, are we all going to walk around with a bunch of freaking chickens? I mean, come on. Walking around with paper money is better. Now, people think, oh, the price of gold and silver is so high now. The price of gasoline is so high. The reason it's so high isn't because it's high. It's because the dollar is worth less. And if it ever becomes worthless, we'll be, I don't know, God, I don't think it can get as bad as it did in Weimar Germany, but, you know, where they had the inflation was so high that you could wake up in the morning and by the time the sun went down, the currency that you had in your pocket was worth, you know, I mean, it was just that's the rate of inflation. Let's see if I can find some of this information just to show you a picture of Chinese paper currency. Don't try this at home. This is very technical stuff. Where did I put that? Oh, yeah. Banknote with its printing plate. Okay. There is a printing plate. It looks like it's made out of stone. So there's this stone. It looks like stone to me. Carved stone. And they put ink on this and make this paper. Okay? This right here is that right there. So this would go over on top of that, and they would make a print of it, and then they would have currency. Now, if you start counterfeiting currency, you're going to wind up in Leavenworth. And I'm sure that if people try to forge this currency, you wind up with your head chopped off. So people get very, very upset when people start to play around with the currency. When I was in Europe, the French had a coin. I don't know if it was like a copper coin or brass or something. It was a round coin, and then the inside of it was like a brass or some sort of a different kind of a metal. And it was worth X amount of francs or whatever it was, I don't remember. But it just so happened that the Iranians had a coin that was almost identical. Identical in size and identical in look, but it was worth like one, grain of sand or something like that. So it was worth nothing practically, but it was so close. The Iranians were trying to counterfeit the currency by making their own currency that looked identical to this French coin. The French had to take their coin off the market. I've got a 1,000 inte note from Peru, a bunch of them. I bought like 100 of them. 1,000 intes. I bought them for like $8, I think. 100 for $8. So like 8 cents each. Beautiful paper money. Beautiful. Beautiful paper money that they used in Peru. But if something happened, discontinued it, it became worthless. Now, this money right here, it has no value in China, I'm sure. I'm sure you cannot go into a Chinese supermarket and hand them one of these and get a pound of coffee or a pound of tea. So that currency its value is based on its beauty, its historical significance. I'd love to have a piece of that currency. I'd like to have the plate. That would be beautiful. So that's what it's based on. So you have to have, when you deal with barter, you have to be dealing in something that people have agreed to have a value. Like before they got outlawed cigarettes in prisons, cigarettes were a commodity. Cigarettes were something of exchange, had an exchange value. If you live in, when people think, well, like, oh, why would seashells be worth anything? Well, if you lived in, say for example, you lived in, I don't know, you live 3,000 miles away from the ocean, and you'd never seen the ocean. You didn't know the ocean existed. The only thing you'd ever seen that with water was a lake or a river or a stream. You don't know anything about oceans. You don't know anything about ocean life. You don't know anything about anything, because that's just the way it is, okay? This actually is it was a jack from the truck that I had, that was in the family truck when we lived here back in 1983, I think. Now, if you lived, say in the Midwest, and you'd never seen anything like this, you'd never seen that before, this would be something that would be totally unique. I mean, look how beautiful this stuff is. Look at that. Look how nice that is. I don't know how much of this stuff I've got. Anything underneath there? Not much. Now, if you had lived in some place where you'd never seen anything like this, then this would be a tremendously interesting thing. Just like dichroic glass is very interesting. I mean, if the kings of the world, if the pharaohs in Egypt saw dichroic glass, it would be such an incredibly valuable thing that, oh my God, it would be like this. This is a shell. Look how beautiful that is. So these are actually currency. In Africa, metal was very, very valuable. It was big bracelets and all those kind of things, because it was so hard to manufacture that. It's such a time-consuming process to figure out how to do that. So they become very, very valuable. So when the Europeans went there, they had the technology to produce big quantities of metal, so they had a trade good that these people recognized as a trade good, and they could trade with it. Now, they were not aware that that people in certain parts of the world could produce mass quantities of that, and it wasn't really a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal, but it wasn't like as big a deal to them as it was a tremendous big deal to people that can't produce stuff like that. Like people that live by the ocean, they have buckets of that stuff. But if you're in the middle of the Midwest, or you're in some place where they've never even seen a seashell, it's a lot different. Like pearls. Pearls are highly valued. Pearls are highly valued. They're a trading commodity. Pearls. They're a commodity. Actually, they're not a commodity. Turquoise and pearls. They're used in the manufacture of jewelry. Jewelry has been something that has been a trade good forever, I think. There have been beads are some of the oldest things in humanity. People get a rock or something and they put a hole in it and put it around their neck. Rare objects are a commodity.